Good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is Mark Coman from Paul's Photo, the lab at Paul's Photo and Creative Photo Academy. You guys have been asking me lots of questions about what's the whole new mirrorless craze and when is it time to switch and why should I switch? And in my opinion, I think the time is now. And you should really consider the switch to full frame mirrorless. It's gaining steam. There's a lot of reasons to do it. And let's run through this real quick. You have the information you need. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to see why. So I want to welcome you, gang, and we'll talk about why mirrorless, why full frame. It's very important for you to understand the differences and what's going on. So I want to welcome you to Paul's Photo, the lab at Paul's Photo and Creative Photo Academy, where we are your community, your resource, and we're the place where you get the honest answers. We're your local camera store. Whether you live here in LA County or around the world, we'll take care of you like you were our next door neighbors. And that's what we've promised and done since 1961. So at Paul's Photo, Creative Photo Academy and the lab, my wife and I are the bosses. We want you to be comfortable, happy here, and we live by these core values: customer service, community, and sustainable business. I know these are trying times for everyone, and we want everyone to remember that you deserve a place where you can belong. And that's why customer service is important to us, so that you can come here, get what you need, get taken care of. We've built a strong community of creative, active photographers, and we want you to be part of it. But of course, we've done that in a responsible business manner, so we can survive any tough times if we band together or we work together. You know, we've had great success. The best camera store in the United States in 2012, the best camera store here in LA County every year since 1999 with our local newspapers. It's awesome fun what we have doing. You know, my dad and I have been working together since 1974. My dad started in 1961. You know, we have the legacy, we have the tradition, but we're also with you today to help. So my name is Mark Coman. I've been working here in the camera store every day since 1974. I'm a certified photographic counselor, certified photographic instructor, certified National Parks guide, and I love photography. This is what we do, right? And in the camera store, we have been part of the three great nexuses in photography. The first nexus in the 1960s, the change from big cameras to small cameras. And these are the cameras that we saw in pictures and movies, the old large format cameras, to the 35 millimeter rangefinder and single lens reflex cameras we're familiar with today. We've been intimately involved in the switch from film to digital in the early 2000s. You know, many of you were early adopters, some of you were late adopters here. And that's great. We help guide you through this, and we're guiding you through the next change, the change from single lens reflex cameras to mirrorless cameras. And I can't tell you how exciting this is. And what I see in the market today is a more rapid switch than the switch from film to digital. It's exciting, it's fun, and with, you know, 4 great players in the full frame mirrorless market with Panasonic, Canon, Nikon, and Sony, there's awesome choices out there to help you make and choose the camera that you want. So what is the same about a mirrorless camera? Of course, the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO, exposure, composition, and light. The photography is the same. It's the same camera settings. It's just a new form that you're holding in your hand. It's a new way for the image to get from the light to the imaging sensor or the film. You know, and you're still a photographer with a mirrorless camera. Don't think that that's any different. But what's changing? Why are the mirrorless cameras gaining? Number one, if you upgrade the camera and upgrade the lenses, you're getting markedly better pictures, 15 to 20% better pictures. The cameras are a third to a half lighter, better video. They're faster shooting, new features, amazing new features, which we'll talk about in a little bit. No moving parts, so they're very reliable. And gang, it's the future. And one of the things about it that's so cool is because the cameras are 100% electronic, they're fully programmable, software updatable. It's awesome what's happening. You know, my Nikon Z7 is on the 4th or 5th iteration of the operating system for the camera, and every time it gets better with new features, new technology, all of that coming in a camera that I've had for a year and a half. It's awesome. So why mirrorless? Why the change? Because we want those improvements. We want the better picture quality. You know, I did a video last month about what's in my camera bag, and you'll see that I've 100% switched. So I sold all my Nikon DSLR cameras and switched to the Nikon mirrorless. So if you're a Canon photographer, a Sony photographer, a Panasonic photographer, now's probably the time. Now's also the time for you to upgrade to full frame. Get the bigger camera that's going to take better pictures. If you haven't seen this video, send me an email, mark@pulsephoto.com, and I'll send you the link so you can watch it. It's a great 90-minute video on what's in my bag and why. So we all know the digital SLR camera. We've been using those for 50 years. So what happens on a digital SLR camera is we have an aperture and a shutter like any camera. When we're looking through the picture, when we're viewing, the light comes through the lens, bounces off a mirror to the prism and out to our eyeball. So we are seeing real time through the lens. But the problem is we're not seeing what the camera's doing. We don't get to see the focus, the exposure, all of that information. We have to know that. And how many of us have made a mistake on an SLR camera by having the wrong exposure set? That's right, all of us, right? When you take a picture with an SLR camera, the mirror moves out of the way, the light comes through to the imaging sensor, which we then can see on the back screen. We can do a preview right there on the back screen. This is how the digital SLR works. All right, what are the benefits of the digital SLR today? Number one, it's established. It's been on the market for digital 20 years now. You have all of the legacy lenses, even going back to film days, the legacy lenses and accessories. And that's a real concern. I understand that. We all have a camera bag full of cameras and lenses, and we want to preserve those. At some time, you have to upgrade. And what's the advantage of the mirrorless camera? So you have a much smaller camera footprint because you don't have to have room for the mirror. And because the camera gets smaller, the lenses can get smaller. And you're seeing a significant drop in size and weight in cameras and lenses on the mirrorless platform. Now, we still have the aperture and the shutter just like we do in a SLR camera. The photography is not the same. The aperture, the shutter speed, the ISO has not changed at all. When you're taking a picture or viewing through a mirrorless camera, the light comes through the lens, strikes the sensor, and we can either see it on the back screen or through the viewfinder. Now, the viewfinder here is not an optical viewfinder like we had on a digital SLR. It's a digital viewfinder. It's a small monitor, a small TV screen. So you can have all of the information that you see on the playback. You can have exposure. You can have the focusing dots. You can have a horizon. All of that information is now available through the viewfinder, and that's really powerful. So what are the advantages of mirrorless? Smaller camera, smaller lenses, lighter weight, simpler form factor. In fact, with a mirrorless camera, a camera doesn't even have to look like a camera. All the manufacturers are still making cameras that are traditional feeling, but I could see some designer making a camera that looks like a beer can, because if that's easier to hold, because it's all electronic, you have the ability to do that, right? Can I use my old lenses? Yes, you can. And you can do that by adding an adapter, a lens adapter, because you need to replace the distance of where the mirror was. So here I have my SLR lens. That lens is made to be this far from the film plane. On a mirrorless camera, it's this far. So we need to add that distance back. So if you have a Canon camera and have old Canon lenses, you can get the Canon adapter and put your old lenses on the mirrorless camera. You have to have old Nikon lenses. You can buy the Nikon adapter and put the old Nikon lenses on the new mirrorless camera. If you have the old Minolta or Sony lenses, you can put those on the new Sony cameras, because you just have to add the adapter to replace the mirror. And that's an advantage sometimes, but we'll talk about where you gain the real advantage by upgrading your lenses as well. So, can you use your old lenses? Yes, you can. But you have to remember that if your lens was designed during the film days, if your lens was originally sold with a film camera, that lens will support a 12 megapixel image. That's right. We're talking about cameras today that are 24, 36, 46 megapixels. And you want to put a lens on that does 12 megapixels worth of image quality. If you have an early digital lens, those will do 24 megapixels. The modern mirrorless lenses, the top line Panasonic on Canon lenses, support over 50 megapixels of quality. And that's why we're seeing a 15 to 20% increase in picture quality by using the new lenses, also because of the new geometry that we're going to talk about in just a second. And yes, it makes a difference. It is a noticeable increase in quality when you use the mirrorless lenses on the mirrorless cameras versus adapting your older lenses to the modern camera. So, mirrorless is 10 to 20% sharper. Why? Because of the new geometry. So what is this new geometry? Two things have changed. So the first thing is you've seen, so there's the new Panasonic lens mount, Sony has their E mount, the new Canon R mount and the Nikon Z mount. Those lenses, those mounts have a bigger diameter, a bigger throat. So if you look at the old Nikon lenses, the old Nikon lens mount was 44 millimeters in diameter. The new one is 55 millimeters in diameter. A big increase to let more light and let more information come in through the lens. But the real big advantage in mirrorless is the body depth or the lens flange distance. On an old style SLR, a Canon SLR camera, it was 44 millimeters from the film plane to the lens mount. On the new mirrorless, on the Canon R, it's 20 millimeters. On the Nikon, it's 16 millimeters. On the Sony, it's 18 millimeters. So what the designers are doing is they're able to bring the rear element of the lens closer to the film plane, and that's where we're getting a noticeable increase in picture quality and the ability to design lenses that weren't available when you had to have that inch for the mirror in the way. This is why I recommend to all my customers, as you're upgrading the camera, put it on your list, maybe not today, but in the near future, let's start upgrading all your lenses. Let's trade in your older film lenses, your older digital SLR lenses, and get the new mirrorless lenses as they're becoming available. So, what else is the advantage of mirrorless? The electronic viewfinder, we talked about that. Live exposure, more information, the histogram, level, all the data is available through the viewfinder or on the back screen. And it's all scrollable, toggleable with a switch on the back of the camera to adjust that. So if you like a very simple viewfinder like I do, that's great. If you want the grid lines, that's great. Or if you want all of the information, you can all program that right into the viewfinder, both on the top viewfinder and on the LCD screen on the back. More focusing points. On an SLR camera, focus is hardware. There are discrete hardware focusing sensors in an SLR camera. On a mirrorless camera, on the digital mirrorless, the Sony, the Panasonic, the Canon, the Nikon cameras, software controls the focus, and you're focusing off the imaging sensor. So on the modern Canon and Nikon cameras, you can focus almost all the way to the edge of the frame. There are 1,000 focusing points that makes it much easier to work and find your subject so that you can focus wherever you want in the picture. The other cool thing that happens is you're never going to have the front focus or back focus that we have, because that was on an SLR camera, slightly alignment difference between the mirror, the focusing sensor, and what really happened on the imaging sensor. Here, it's focusing right off the sensor. And that's why you can do fun things like infrared photography on a mirrorless camera. And it works perfectly so that I can focus wherever I want in the picture to get the pictures that I want. And that's the power. That's the power of everything. And focus on a mirrorless camera is by software. This is something that we as digital photographers need to get used to. You're used to on your top end Pro SLR camera, you press the button, it's in focus and you go. You see a lot of complaints on mirrorless camera that the focus is slower. The initial pickup on a mirrorless camera is slightly slower. In fact, on my digital SLR, I loved the back button focus so I could push the button, have it focus, let go and have it stop focusing. That technique doesn't work well on a mirrorless camera. You want to let the focus have time to find the subject. Now, how long is it? It's a fraction of a second. But how I shoot with my mirrorless camera is, if I'm shooting action, I'll lock onto the subject, press halfway down on the shutter release, that activates the focus. Once that focus finds the subject and locks on, it's deadly. It's there. And whether I'm doing sports, portraits, wildlife, kids running around in the backyard, using this focus tracking technology is amazing. I'll talk about this picture. So many of you have shot football. Football is very difficult to focus because a lot of people run in front of you while you're shooting. So this was made with the Nikon Z7 with the 400mm 2.8 lens. I had the face finder focus on. I had locked the face on the face of the quarterback. And face finder found the quarterback and put the yellow square around his head. And as he ran around in the frame, the focus followed him. And in fact, as other people ran in front between me and him, it still kept the focus on him. So if you look at this picture, you see the quarterback in focus, the receiver right in front of me, just about ready to make his break and turn around and get the pass, is out of focus. On your SLR camera, it could never have shot this picture. The bird flying, as the bird flies, I think I've got the, yes, right here. So I've got an eagle in Africa. I had the face finder, it found the face of the eagle on the tree. And usually when the bird flies, the focus goes on the tree, the bird's out of focus. As the bird flew, the focus tracked him. It was awesome and powerful, and it allowed me to get the picture. Amazing. No matter what kind of technology, what kind of photography you're doing, whether it's people, animals, sports, this focus tracking just rocks. So the new cameras, the new versions of the software, not only have face, but they have eye. And so how does the eye work? When it's farther away, it sees the face and locks on the face and tracks the face. But when you get to a certain closeness, it switches to lock on to the eyeball. It's so powerful to use the eye focus. And here I'm shooting with a 105mm 1.4 on 1.4, and I have the focus just on the eyeball. It is rock solid, locked in, awesome. So I use the face tracking, the eye tracking for people and animals. It just rocks. You can't believe how fun and exciting this is and how powerful it is. And the focus even works in low light. Here, ISO 3200, the focus locks on, finds the face. Here, 6400 ISO. And if you're not familiar with shooting at ISOs in this range, you need a new camera because it raises the power of what we can do. The modern full frame mirrorless cameras shoot to unbelievable ISOs. And the face and autofocus tracking works, even in these terrible, horrible lighting conditions. They make awesome, beautiful pictures. Don't be afraid to shoot 3200, 6400, 12,000, 25,000, 51,000 ISO and let the focus track. So, two powerful new features that have come to us with the mirrorless full frame cameras. Number one, focus peaking, and number two, focus stacking. So what is focus peaking? So you set the camera to manual focus, and what the camera does, in this case, you see the blue, it has outlined the subjects that are in focus in blue. Here in red. And you can set this in the menu, whether you want your peaking color to be white, yellow, blue, or red in most cameras. And I prefer blue or red, but you have to manage that against the subject. So if I'm shooting, a football team that has red jerseys, you can't have your focus peaking in red. If I'm shooting roses that are red, I can't have my focus peaking in red. So when do I use focus peaking? A lot for macro photography and a lot for portrait photography. So you see what is actually in focus. And focus stacking or focus bracketing is an awesome feature where the cameras will, you set up the camera. So here on these flowers, I told it to focus on the front and on the back, and it shot 50 pictures, moving the focus slightly, gave me 50 files that then I could go to Photoshop or another software and stack those and get everything in focus. It's awesome. It's powerful. It's fun. It's exciting. And whether you're doing that on a tripod or here is a handheld focus stack that made beautiful pictures. You know, something where even at 16, I wouldn't have gotten this amount of focus. But here I was hand holding at f5.6 because it was in low light. I focused on the front, in the middle back, all the way back, brought that into the computer, sandwiched them all together, and it adjusted the focus. Awesome. So what other features are we going to find in the mirrorless cameras that are different? Number one, in-body stabilization. So we have image stabilization in the lens, where one of the lens elements is on a gimbal that rotates as the camera is moving. But now on the mirrorless cameras, the imaging sensor will also move. So you can get up to 8 stops in stabilization. I know a lot of you are doing video, and doing video with the mirrorless full frame cameras with 8 stops of stabilization means that a lot of times you don't need one of the big rigs or the gimbals and stuff like that. You can save all that size and weight and the thousands of dollars by just hand holding the camera and being a little bit careful. And the pictures look good. Silent shutter. So you can use an electronic shutter in the camera and make absolutely no noise. So if you want to photograph in a church or a museum where photography is not allowed, you want to photograph on a movie set or a play or a performance and make no noise, you can do that. They have time lapse built in, so you can do a time lapse movie. Intervalometer, so you can do a reveal, a star trail. Multiple exposure. All these features are available now on the full frame mirrorless cameras. Some of them were available on SLRs, but all of the top cameras have these features now, right? And I love it because doing mirrorless allows me to do infrared and have the camera focus. Now, infrared is one of my secret weapons. I'm actually giving a talk tonight on infrared photography. It's awesome, fun, and powerful, but it means you need to buy a second camera and have it converted to infrared. But it rocks. It's so fun. For video, let's talk about video, right? One of the advantages of the mirrorless cameras is they seamlessly transition between a still camera and a video camera, or a still camera and a cinema movie camera. So 8K, 4K video coming to be standard everywhere. Focus tracking in video, which was never possible before. I'm in the video mode now. You see the camera is focusing on me as I'm coming in and out. Time lapse, raw, log video. All these important features to the videographer are now available. These professional features are available on your everyday mirrorless interchangeable lens camera. Can you use your old memory cards? I don't recommend that you use your old memory cards when you're updating to a new mirrorless full frame camera. Why? Your old memory cards that you worked on your digital SLR camera are too old and too slow. So the two #1 cards that are There we go. Sorry about that. In the mirrorless full frame cameras are the Compact Flash Express card, my favorite card. So this is a new card to us. It's a little bit different form factor. It needs a new card reader, but 1,400 megabytes a second. I shot the other day out shooting wildlife. I shot a 128 gigabyte card, which is a giant card. And using an older style card, it would have taken 15 or 20 minutes just to download that card to my computer. Here, I was able to download the card in 2 minutes. Awesome. You know, you compare that to your old Compact Flash card, it's 100 times faster. The SD cards, secure digital cards. So you probably have one, and if it doesn't have a speed rating on it, that means it's below 30 megabytes a second. Will not work properly in a modern camera. Your top-end older SD cards, the UHS-1 cards, We're 90 megabytes a second. The new UHS-2 that have the 2 rows of contacts, 300 megabytes a second. So they're almost 4 times faster than what you were doing with the older SD cards. It's worth it to do the upgrade. If you're shooting fast, doing video, you really need to consider upgrading your memory cards. And then finally, why are we upgrading to full frame? Full frame is a bigger sensor, better pictures, better in low light, and the better autofocus background, the better the bokeh. Everybody loves that. So upgrading to full frame is a big advantage. You know, the cameras have gotten smaller, so upgrading to full frame, you're not paying that much more in size and weight to get a full frame mirrorless camera, compact cameras, and adding full frame gives you lots of capability. Look at how I can enlarge that picture. Look at how I can, even for fast action at 10,000 ISO, you can get right in and capture the scene because it's all about better pictures. I know some of us are geeks and love the technology and love the gadgetry, but for me, it's always about the pictures. I want to see the better pictures. So here from the comment we had the other day, 6400 ISO, the Comet New Eyes. Amazing, right? Look at the bokeh on my buddy Chuck. So this is with the 70 to 200 2.8 lens at 2.8. Look at the background. Focus on the eyeballs. You're not going to get that from a crop sensor camera, from a small sensor camera. You need full frame to do this. You need full frame to control that background and make the background look the way you want. Yes, it's so powerful. I can't wait to see your pictures when you're doing this, right? Awesome. This is the power of full frame mirrorless. And this is why I can't wait to see your pictures in what you do with your new camera. You know, and we're always here to help you at Paul's Photo, to help you make the right decision, to help you get the right photos for you. If you have any questions, be sure to write to me, mark@paulsphoto.com. Call me, 310-375-7014. We'll get you taken care of. We'll get you upgraded. You'll follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, right? Connect with us. We're here to help you get the pictures you want. If you have any questions, let me know. I always love to help and get you going. Mark Coman from Paul's Photo, the Creative Photo Academy and the lab at Paul's Photo, wishing you good days, great pictures, and I can't wait to help you upgrade to a full frame mirrorless camera. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.